Hello. This is a little intro to day 2 of Move to Learn. I didn't have the recording turned on at the beginning of the session, so I'm going to review what we did at the beginning, and then you can tune into the rest of it on the other link. So we started out today with pace, as usual, water, brain buttons, cross crawls, and we did a few variations of cross crawls. One was to do cross crawls in a chair, in which case I find it's really useful to put a pause between each leg. That is a return to neutral position. Otherwise, this can happen, which is not a real contralateral movement. If you notice, there's no relation between this shoulder and this hip. So we want to have, or sorry, this shoulder and this hip. So I'm just basically doing homolateral or one-sided movement, but I know that I'm supposed to touch my knee. What we want to see in a cross crawl is that the core is involved. And so if you put a pause in neutral in between, then the body has to consciously decide to move the upper and the lower from the opposite quadrants at the same time. And then the cross crawl is clear, because as I said, brain gym works because it's conscious, intentional movement. We also did some other variations of cross crawl from yesterday. So cross crawls don't necessarily have to cross the midline. It's really helpful when they do, but it's also helpful to do, we can do variations where we use very clearly the upper from one side and the lower from the other side of the body. And we can do that in different directions. We can get a little funky. We can create a little cross crawl dance. Lots of variations. You can be really creative. And then, of course, hookups, which is such a valuable brain gym activity. It really helps to bring about coherence. And that coherence, we talked about how that can actually even affect other people that we're in close contact with. Maybe a little bit harder to do that over the screen, but it's been proven that when our heart energy is coherent, it can affect the heart energy of other people around us and bring them more into coherence. So heart energy, the electromagnetic field that emanates from our heart. It's the strongest electromagnetic field in the body. So then we went on to deepen our understanding of the three parts of the brain stem, the limbic system or mammalian brain, and the cerebral cortex, and how they relate to the different categories of brain gym activities, which relate to the three different dimensions of learning: the focus dimension relating to the brain stem, the centering dimension relating to the mammalian brain or the limbic system, and the laterality dimension with midline movements that we're going to work on today that relates to the cerebral cortex. So we started going back to the brain stem and spinal movement. So spinal movement is one of those developmental movements, patterns. Yesterday we talked about breathing and cellular respiration, which is the first movement pattern. We talked about naval radiation being the next in the evolutionary development of life on Earth and also of every person in utero. So the connection of our distal ends to our navel center. There's also the mouthing pattern, which helps us to turn our head. So it starts our body to understand rotation. And it's that the metaphor is to um, seek, reach, grasp, hold on, take in, nurture, and let go. So babies obviously have to learn how to feed themselves. It's quite amazing. They have to actually be able to take in nourishment themselves, because up to this point, they've been fed, and then also everything that comes in and goes out happens through their navel. But once babies are born, they have to learn how to take food in through their mouth, swallow it, digest it, and poop. Okay, so that's quite an accomplishment. Today, we're going to focus on the last 4 movement patterns. And the first one, as I started to say, was spinal movement, which relates to the brainstem. So if you think evolution of species, you're thinking of fish, snakes, all the vertebrates, okay, which start moving by their spine before they developed feet. And what that spine allows us to do is it allows us to position our head to better attend to the world around us. So if we rotate our spine, it means our eyes can see in all directions. Same way, you have to think of a newborn baby. Their world is horizontal because they have to learn how to deal with gravity. There's been no sense of gravity in the womb, really. So once they get out into the real world, in a world of atmosphere and gravity, they have to learn how they're going to deal with gravity. And since they have arms and legs, they're eventually going to want to be able to stand up and move around. But their first means of locomotion is their spine. And that's what they use to wriggle up their mom's tummy. If it's a natural birth, then there aren't people who are doing everything for them. They would use their spine to wriggle up their mother's tummy and find the breast so that they can nurse. So another way babies would experience that would be they want to see, so also to be able to extend their spine to lift their head if they're lying down. So that allows them to attend to the world. They have this new sense that they didn't have in utero, seeing. And to be able to use that, we have to be able to direct those eyes to what we want to see. And the spine is what allows us to do that. Okay. And so spinal movement relating to the brainstem and to the focus dimension. And we can experience that standing up. This is a little bonus that isn't in your book, but we did this today. Tells us a little bit more about how this focus dimension works and why we might want to do our lengthening exercises. So if you stand with your feet facing forward and you just rock forward and back, you're finding where you are in relation to your participation midline. So how ready are you to participate at this particular moment? And as we rock forward and back, we're doing that focus. We're moving in the axis of focus, forward and back. So you might feel like it's easier to move forward, or you might feel it's easier to move back, or you might feel that you're pressed forward a bit, or you might feel that you're pulled back a bit. And that tells you about how safe you might feel. It might tell you about how safe you feel. It might tell you how ready you are to participate. You might feel like hanging back. Okay, so when somebody is really forward like this, we talked about this, if you do that and you find the weight is more on the balls of your feet and even more on your toes, you can see I'm on a diagonal. I'm not on my center. And you might notice if you do that, that there's more tension on the back of your body. We talked about that yesterday, that we release that tension when we do lengthening exercises. And in brain gym, we tend to call this over focus. People might say it's oftentimes true of A-type personalities. They're really rearing and ready to go. It also is a sign of stress in the body. because the body in this position is ready to go, like we're ready to move forward. And in order to keep from falling over, however, those muscles have to hang on and hold us from falling over. Running is basically continual falling. If we are in that position all the time, these muscles are going to get stiff and tight. And we're going to get tired because we're not on balance. Same way when a person is back here, somebody noted that, you know, I said, what would you call me? And somebody said, laid back. We even say this, you know, the postural reference is there in our language. So here I am, laid back, and you're probably not going to invite me to, or ask me to take you to the airport if you want to get there on time, right? Or I might be back here because I'm kind of shy and I really would rather not be here. My body is acting out what is really going on inside. Okay, so just to review those lengthening exercises, we all tried that. You might try that yourself, see where you're at, whether you're more forward and back, and then see how the lengthening exercise, the lengthening activities can change that. The first one being the calf pump. So about a foot away, your foot away from a chair or table or a wall. And you're going to stretch one leg back. You're going to press your heel to the ground. And as you do, make sure that your both feet are pointed like two railroad tracks in the same direction. If you allow your heel to come inwards, in other words, your toes are rotated out, your heel is rotated inward toward the center line, you're not going to get the stretch in your calf, and that's what you want, is the stretch in the calf muscles as you do this. So always inhale up, exhale as you lengthen. Inhale up, exhale as you lengthen. So hips, shoulders are parallel to the surface in front of us. It can also be useful to do this pressing against a wall. That pressure, you might try this as well. That pressure can help you really get the sense of that stretch from the heel all the way to the pressure in your hands. And that can be very helpful oftentimes to people, especially with ADD or ADHD, feeling that grounding sense that gives. Then we have two more standing exercises. One is a grounder. So this is the one where we turn 1 foot 45 degrees in the direction we're going to bend the knee. We bend the knee and we're going to make sure that our knee goes over the toes. We're going to spread out our toes and really feel the heel stretching into the floor and the toes stretching into the floor. Hands on the hips to remind us that our hips stay facing forward even though our knee is going to the side. And you can turn your head toward the knee. If you want to give yourself some more challenge, you can turn your head away from the knee as a variation. Always exhaling as you lengthen, inhaling, coming back up. Then, of course, change back. That foot goes forward, the other foot 45 degrees. You can also do it with your arms out like the warrior pose. We're going to continue on the chair, doing the gravity glider. So we noted in class, although I showed it yesterday standing up, which is what I do with small children. For older children but especially for elderly people, it is a safer alternative to do it sitting down so that you don't hyperextend your knees. So I'm just going to adjust my chair. I guess it's not going to go any lower. I suggest, however, that you sit forward on the chair to do this really effectively because you want to really bend from the hips. Cross your ankles. Again, you're bending from your hips. You're not bending over from your waist. And you reach up as you exhale. Stretch way forward and out into space. Back up. Add a little twist. Reach way out into space as you exhale. Inhale back up. Twist to the other side. Inhale up. We'll over out into space and come up. It's best to not do this on a swivel chair. Okay. The next one we're going to do is the owl. So this is the one where we to one side, and then we to the other side. The variation is to do a semicircle. And we can also finish by looking down and always doing it to the other side. Then we have arm activation. Give yourself a nice long stretch. And then that little isometric, but we're really looking at activating the arm, activating all the muscles in the arm, not strengthening the arm. So just very gentle pressure as you exhale. That was moving your arm towards your ear, but resisting with your other hand. Now you're going to move your arm away from your ear to the side. Moving the arm forward and down. Moving the arm up and back. I love that stretch before, after. And again, on the other side, then we have the calf, the foot flex, which is also another stretch for the calf. So either with your hands crossed or not, you're going to press into the heel, kind of gently squeezing the Achilles tendon there, and then the tendons at the top of the calf, at the back of the knee. You're going to press your heel away from your knee as you exhale, and then bring it back. Press the heel away from your knee, bring it back. The variation of pressing into the calf as you exhale, finding those tender spots. Okay. Of course, we always do both sides. And then once again, if we check the dimension forward and back, finding out if it feels more equal moving forward and back. Is it the same or is it different? Where's the weight when you stop? Is it more on the balls of your feet or your toes or back on your heels? Notice if there's change. People in class today felt some change in their posture from this. So then we went on to talk about the limbic system in the midbrain, and hopefully my camera is going to refocus for me. This relating to the centering dimension, and I guess I might as well get right up again, because the movement pattern that's connected with this is the upper lower or homologous movement pattern. We could just call it upper lower. So this is when both of the upper limbs move at the same time and both of the lower limbs move at the same time. And this is a movement pattern that creates the ability to stabilize the upper or lower body. Really important. If we're going to do some work with our hands, if we're going to read a book, if we're going to write, we need our lower body to be stable. If we want to reach out and hug somebody, we want our lower body to be stable. Same thing, if we want to travel through space, we want our upper body to be stable, because if everything is moving all the time, you maybe seen a toddler who moves like that. You know, they're running and they're excited and everything is going all over there. It's not very organized, and it's taking a lot of energy to do that. Fortunately, they have a lot of energy at that age, but it's not very efficient. So we can check this axis of movement is the vertical axis of the body. So we can check that reaching up and reaching down. So does that feel fluid, smooth, and easy all the way up and all the way down? Does it feel connected? And can you reach up and stay connected to the ground and grounded and balanced? And can you reach down and remain some sense of buoyancy, or do you just feel down and heavy? And once again, there are life metaphors for that. So we found that half of the class felt more grounded, and the other half of the class felt more light, and their energy felt higher in their body. And we noted that that might be related to more flexibility, inspiration, but maybe less grounded, maybe a little more flighty. People where the weight is centered lower in their body, or for a particular situation, they may feel very stable, very steady, and they also may feel a bit resistant to change or less flexibility. It's about something, we all have our own center of gravity, but also in particular situations, we may feel more grounded, or we may feel more flexible. So there we do all the, we went through the energy exercises. Two that we added later in the day were the thinking caps, where you unroll the ear all the way around. We usually do that 3 times. That's the thinking caps. There are so many acupressure points and so many nervous connections or neurons in the ears. It's a very powerful brain gym exercise. And the other new one today is the energy yawn. So we're going to find our TMJ joints, our jaw joint where our jaw moves from. And we're going to give that a nice rub and open our mouth and do our best to yawn. And hopefully a yawn will come, because a yawn relaxes our whole body. So hopefully that will catch you up to when we turn the recording on. So thank you very much. Take care.